You know that thing where someone says something kind to you, genuinely kind, and instead of feeling warm, you feel uncomfortable, like your body doesn't know what to do with it, like you almost want to deflect it or laugh it off or say something sarcastic just to make the moment stop. Or maybe it's this: you can't really tell when you're sad. You just know something feels off, heavy, wrong. But if someone asked you to name it, you'd stare at them like they asked you to describe a color you've never seen. Or this one: you are the most capable person in every room you walk into, reliable, together, and somehow still feel like nobody actually knows you. If any of that landed, stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you isn't about something terrible that happened to you, it's about something that didn't happen, and that distinction is everything. When most people hear the word trauma, they picture something: an event, an incident, something with a clear before and a clear after. And that kind of trauma is real, absolutely. But there's another category, quieter, harder to point to, that psychology has been slowly piecing together for decades. It doesn't show up as a memory you can name. It shows up as a feeling you can't. Psychologists call it childhood emotional neglect. And here's the thing that makes it so slippery. It's not defined by what happened. It's defined by what was consistently, repeatedly absent. No physical harm, no dramatic incident, just a child sending out signals, feelings, needs, fears, excitement, and nothing coming back. Like shouting into a room and hearing no echo, not because something was wrong with your voice, because the room was empty. And here's what's wild. Children don't blame the room. They blame the sound. Here's something most people don't realize. Emotional awareness isn't something you're born with fully formed. It's something you learn. The same way you learn language, through repetition, through someone else reflecting it back to you. When a caregiver notices a child's face and says, "You look sad," they're not just being nice. They're teaching that child, this feeling exists, it has a name, and it matters. That moment, repeated hundreds of times across childhood, builds a kind of internal map, a vocabulary for your own inner world. But when those moments are absent, when no one reflects your emotions back to you, that map never gets drawn, and you grow up navigating feelings you were never given words for. Researchers call this alexithymia, and I know that word sounds like the name of a Greek goddess, but it basically means difficulty identifying and describing your own emotions. Studies show it appears at significantly higher rates in people who experienced emotional neglect in childhood. It's not a personality flaw. It's not coldness. It's a developmental gap. You weren't taught the language, so you never became fluent in it. And here's where it gets interesting, because the people who grow up this way, they're often the highest functioning people in the room. They learned early that emotions weren't safe to express, or weren't welcome, or simply went unacknowledged. So they adapted. They became competent, responsible, the one who handles things, the reliable friend, the capable colleague, the person everyone leans on. Being fine stopped being a feeling and became a strategy. Clinician Janice Webb, who has spent years working with adults affected by childhood emotional neglect, describes a pattern she sees repeatedly. People who, on the surface, appear to have it all together, but privately experience this strange, vague sense that something is missing, like they're watching their own life from behind glass, present, but not quite in it. And the relationships? That's where it really shows up. Because when love was unpredictable, or just absent as a child, you learned something without knowing you learned it. You learned not to rely on it. So, as an adult, someone loving you too much doesn't feel safe. It feels like a countdown. Compliments feel suspicious. Genuine care feels like pressure. And deep down, there's this exhausting belief that if anyone really knew you, they'd eventually leave anyway.
So you become self-sufficient, independent. I don't need anyone, which honestly sounds like strength until you realize it started as a child deciding it was safer not to need. A 2024 scoping review published in Child Abuse and Neglect found consistent links between emotional neglect in childhood and emotion regulation difficulties in adulthood. And they noted something important. Emotional neglect remains one of the least studied forms of childhood trauma, in part because it's so hard to document. You can't photograph an absence. Now, here's where I want to be careful with you, because there's a version of this that can spiral into blame, and I don't want that for you. Most caregivers who emotionally neglected their children weren't cruel. Many were just also neglected, raised in families where emotions weren't discussed, weren't valued, weren't safe. They couldn't give you what they never received. That doesn't make the impact smaller, it just makes it more human. And here's the other thing worth sitting with. The coping mechanisms you built, the competence, the independence, the emotional walls, they were smart, genuinely. A child with no power in an environment that couldn't meet their emotional needs adapted in the most intelligent ways available, becoming quiet, becoming funny, becoming the achiever, the caretaker, the one who disappears just enough to stay safe. Those weren't mistakes. Those were solutions. The problem is just that you're still running them in a different life, in different rooms with people who maybe could actually be trusted, and your nervous system hasn't gotten the memo yet. So what do you do with this? Here's what I want you to know, and this matters. The brain is not fixed. Research on neuroplasticity consistently shows that the emotional circuitry that didn't fully develop in childhood can be rewired. Slowly, through therapy, yes, but also through small, deliberate acts of self-recognition. Noticing when you feel something instead of immediately moving past it. Pausing when someone compliments you instead of deflecting. Just letting it land for 1 second. Asking yourself, what do I actually need right now? And sitting with the discomfort of not immediately knowing the answer. For some people, that's genuinely new. Not dramatic, just new. There's also a grief that comes with this, and it's a strange kind, because you're not mourning something you lost, you're mourning something you never had, a childhood where your emotional world was seen and named and held. That grief is real, and it deserves space.
The sound was always worth echoing. That's the thing. The child in you who needed someone to look at them and say, I see you, I hear you, that matters. That child wasn't too much, wasn't too needy, wasn't asking for something unreasonable. The room was just empty. And healing, real healing, isn't about going back and fixing the room. It's about slowly, carefully learning to build one that echoes. Whether that's therapy, honest relationships, or just the quiet, radical act of finally listening to yourself. You deserved to be heard then. You still do. If this video felt like something, please like the video. It genuinely helps this channel reach the people who need it most. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that subscribe button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate it.